Welcome to another episode of Saving One Life Yours, a podcast brought to you by tag4life. We shine a powerful light on medically vulnerable people who, for whatever reason, can't speak for themselves. Today's guest is tag4life's CEO and President Ben Weinberg, who is a two-time liver transplant survivor. Our host and moderator is Victoria Yoakum, tag4life's Marketing and Social Media Director. Listen to Ben discuss his remarkable passage from health to sickness and back to health again, and how his journey affects his view of life itself. He goes on to describe how tag4life began with the efforts of 6 liver transplant survivors, and how our mission to provide medical IDs for medically vulnerable people continues on to this day.
Hi.
Hey,
So, could you introduce yourself?
sure. I'm Ben Weinberg. I am the president of tag4life. I was the one who started it, and then we've got a bunch of people, including you, Victoria, who came on because they wanted to share in the mission.
And you received a liver transplant, right?
I actually received 2. I was diagnosed with something called primary sclerosing cholangitis, PSC, many years ago. And they told me at the time that it was possible I would need a liver transplant, and then eventually it became necessary. My first one was August 16th of 2021, which is my wife's birthday.
Oh, wow.
And that went bad immediately, pretty close to immediately. And about 8.5 months later, April 11th of 2022, I had my second liver transplant, and so far we're hanging in there.
What required you to have a second transplant? Like,
They don't really know. They don't always know, but about 5 to 10% is kind of the statistic of people who have a liver transplant. It just doesn't work. They usually do know why eventually, but they weren't able to really figure it out in my case.
okay. So you started tag4life through your experiences. What is tag4life? Could you tell us a little about it?
Sure. The way it started was, we have, as you know, you're in it too, we have an incredible support group for liver transplant patients and their caretakers, run by the Mayo Clinic, run by a tremendous social worker there named Jenna. And we had this conversation more than once, kind of over and over in that group, about medical IDs, about if you're unconscious, perhaps, and you need a first responder, perhaps it would be really helpful for them to know that you're immunocompromised, because we all take medicine that compromises our immune system so that we won't reject our transplants. And we asked the question, I asked the question, how many of you actually have those IDs? And to my great surprise, less than half of the people who responded said yes. And this is a group of people who everyone needs one. So I thought, wow, that's really interesting. I told my wife Yael, and she said, maybe this is something you can do. One of the things that happens when you have a life-changing medical event, as you well know, is that all of a sudden you're able to do some things and not able to do other things that you've done all your life.
Right.
And because those things that you expected to be able to do, some of them you can't do anymore, you have to find new purpose. You have to find an ability to have meaning in your life beyond where you're at. You have to be able to look forward to the future and have hope. And I'd been casting around and searching for something to help with that. And she said, this could possibly be that thing. And I said, okay. So I went on to the group the next week and I said, who would like to help me with this? And we got 5 or 6 people, and including you. And every single one of us has had at least one liver transplant at the Mayo Clinic. And we've just, in the last it's almost 6 months now that we've been working, and we're ready to go live at this point.
That's amazing. That's a very inspiring story. A good reason to start it, for
Yeah,
sure.
I should say that what we actually do is we help pay for medical IDs for medically vulnerable people, no questions asked. We don't make IDs, we don't sell IDs. All we do is help pay for them. So
and how do you do that?
Yeah, so we have partners, including the Mayo Clinic, that is allowing us to do some of our concept testing with small groups of their patients. And we're starting with the liver transplant patients at Phoenix, because we all know who those are. We all know the people that work with those people. And then we also have vendors who provide the medical IDs. And right now our main partner there is Medical Alert Foundation, which is the 800-pound gorilla of medical IDs. Something like almost 2 million people who have their IDs. And we're very fortunate to have both of these powerhouses as partners and helping hands to help us get the concept off the ground. So we fundraise and we provide funds to be able to pay for those IDs. That's what we do.
And initially it's for transplant patients, but are you planning to eventually expand?
Yes. We figured that the first piece is to figure a proof of concept out that if we provide education, and we've come to the conclusion that education is a huge part of what we're going to be doing, we provide education, we provide funds, that people will increase the number of medical IDs that they purchase, or the number of people that have them will increase. That's kind of how we're starting out with the liver transplant patients at the Mayo. Then the next level is more of a scaling issue, which is, can we put the systems in place that allow us to do this at scale?
Right.
And Mayo has also said, once you prove the first piece, which is that you're effective, we'll let you kind of expand to the entire transplant universe at Mayo, which is about 5,000 patients a year. The first group of liver transplants is about 250 a year, which is small enough to be able to make changes and things like that. And then the second group of 5,000 is bigger, and you can't really do that as much. So we're really, at that point, experimenting with what systems do we have to have in place to make this kind of automatic. And at that point, we don't think there's a huge difference anymore between 5,000 and 10 million. And so once we prove that we can scale, then there's this point at which we're just going to open up the gates and fundraise like crazy and provide it to anybody who wants, but we're not there yet. That's the goal, though.
So what are your main means of fundraising right now?
Really twofold. One is that we have a donations capability set up for individuals and businesses who want to just donate. You go to tag4life.org, as it's spelled up in the upper left-hand corner there, TAG, the number 4life.org. And right at the top of the page, there's a donate button. If you want to use PayPal, we have a button for that as well. And that's been the main method so far. We also have been actively seeking grants from multiple organizations. We've gotten a few. We need more. And one of the interesting things about that is that we've discovered is that this becomes a social indicators of health kind of thing, where the whole idea of depending on your zip code is kind of how much healthcare you get. And so there's this disparity between people who lack access versus those who have access. And it's often socioeconomic, and it's often other indicators as well of disadvantaged communities. So a lot of what we do now is focused on telling the foundations that fund grants, we're trying to even the playing field for people that are disadvantaged as well. So that's a big part of the grant push, which we didn't think it was going to be, but it definitely is.
Well, it sounds like you have a big vision that's coming into fruition. And it sounds like you're going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I come from an entrepreneurial startup background. And so I'm used to starting small and thinking big. And bringing that to the charity space, which I've never done before, is an eye-opening first. And B, it's a lot of those lessons that I learned in scaling impact companies really apply here as well. So it's I think the people that we work with are refreshed by it too. They see how intent we are on it and how professional we are in what we do. And I think that makes a big difference too.
Yeah, and the fact that you have this connection to, the related topic is amazing. So in that regard, what does the success of tag4life mean to you?
You told me you were going to ask that. And it's I've thought a lot about that. And I think it's really twofold. I think there's the obvious one, which is kind of helping to save the world a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of that's just the apparent one, and certainly it's true. There's no issue that's a thing, but really right now, as we figure out how to do all this, the real blessing to me is watching the other people who are involved, you and the other board members and all the other people that are helping us, watching how they find purpose. I talked about how it helps me find purpose, but watching these other people who are in the same place that I am, having to find meaning in life that's different than it was before, and they're latching on to this as something that helps them navigate this kind of traumatic change in their lives, and it provides comfort to them. And so I'm right now, that's just amazing to me that we're able to affect people that way.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I think probably the more the larger issue is saving lives.
Yeah, you really are impacting two groups of people. I mean, like you said, impacting the chronically ill that need this, but you're right. I mean, after you go through something so traumatic and so life-changing, you're kind of left like, what's next? And, how do I pick up my life from this? And I think as transplant patients, you feel kind of a need to give back in a way because you have been given a second chance or a third chance in your case. And you have this desire to help. And I think that's what tag4life is going to accomplish as well.
I agree 100%. And anybody that wants to help our mission, they're welcome to do so. All you have to do is go to the website, and we are a small group. We are not an automated factory. We will get back to you. We'll chat. We'll talk to you. Whatever you want to do. And any donation is obviously greatly appreciated.
Yeah, it's a very personalized experience, I think. So, what would you like the world to know about tag4life?
That we're not going to stop until everybody who needs and wants a medical ID can get one. And whether that's because they need the money, or they need the motivation, or they need the education, I don't think that really matters. We're going to cover all of those holes and make sure that there's no reason to not have one unless you really, really don't want one. And if you're in any way concerned about how your medical care is going to go if you can't speak, you need one. And so this is not just about transplant patients. It's about children with allergies. It's about adults who have memory deficits. It's about, you can just go on and on and on. The statistics are that just in the United States, there are 10 million people who need medical IDs. There aren't even close to 10 million people who have them. So that's what I want people to know, is we're tireless. We're not going to stop. And when it's time, you'll know who we are.
That's amazing. That's a very powerful explanation. That was like more than enough. Yeah, that was great, man. You did amazing. Wow, that was better than I could have ever expected.
Thank you for listening to Saving One Life Yours, a podcast by tag4life. Please subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube podcasts. And if you'd like to drop us a line, whether to suggest future topics or for any other reason, please do so at contact@tag4life.org. At tag4life, we shine a powerful light on medically vulnerable people who, for whatever reason, can't speak for themselves. We do this by helping to cover the cost of their medical IDs, no questions asked. So how can you help? Go to tag4life.org, or if you're watching our video podcast, open the camera app on your smartphone and click on the QR code to get to our homepage. Then click on the Donate button to contribute to our cause. Thanks so much for your support.